All right. Welcome back to Gospel Chats, everybody. We're so glad you're joining with us. I'm Marshall.
I'm Ryan.
And we're going to just talk about some things about the gospel of Jesus Christ today, but I'm going to pass it right over to Ryan because he says that we're talking about control and submission, and I have no control over about what's about to go down because I have no idea what he's going to say.
I want control of this episode.
Okay.
No, that's not true. But I do want to introduce something.
All right.
This will be our first episode of the new year.
Season 2.
Season 2.
We got renewed.
Yes. Because we're in charge, we renewed ourselves. But the New Year's always an interesting time, right? New Year's resolutions, new goals, new opportunities, and some of that is awesome, and I love it, and some of it is messed up and weird. And so we're going to talk about some of that. Is that all right?
This is exciting.
Okay, so I want to set up our conversation this way, I guess, and we've dealt with a couple of these, but there seem to be things that we, just as society as a whole, but including as Latter-day Saints, accept as truth because the majority of society accepts it as true.
Okay.
We just believe things that because maybe there's partial truth to it, right? The philosophies of men can be pretty good at times, but I think some of them we almost start to believe that they're gospel principles, that they're gospel truths, and we don't even question them. And unless every once in a while someone just kind of shakes us and says, is that really the gospel of Jesus Christ? Is that really a true principle?
Okay.
So here's something that I think we might accept as true, but I don't know if it's true. And it's this one-liner, that the more control I have, the happier I'll be. I think a lot of people, whether they say it that way or not, again, I don't know if a lot of people would say it that way, but I think we live that way.
Okay.
And again, I think sometimes our goals and our schedules and our plans reflect this deep held belief that the more I can control my life, the happier I'm going to be.
All right.
Okay, I'll give you 2 examples. So I'm searching the internet because that's where you go for all things that are true.
All truth.
All right?
All truth is there.
So here's one website. Belief in one's ability to exert control over the environment and to produce desired results is essential for an individual's well-being. It has been repeatedly argued that the perception of control is not only desirable, but it is likely a psychological and biological necessity. That's pretty powerful.
That's a really big
That's
statement.
from
That's
NIH.gov.
Oh,
okay.
well, there we go.
Right, the government teaching us about control. That's anyway.
Government would never lie.
No. Okay.
Shouldn't have said that.
AI
so
produced this one for me as I was just trying to look up some things about, okay, what does the world believe about control? Quote, according to psychological research, feeling a sense of control over your life is considered a key factor in achieving happiness, as it allows you to manage your circumstances and pursue your goals, leading to a greater sense of well-being and satisfaction. Essentially, the more in control you feel, the happier you tend to be.
Okay.
Okay. Do you buy that?
All right. So, yes and no. Can I say yes and no?
Yes.
Okay. You're not going to control me on that one.
No, I'll give you some space.
No, I think as I'm wrestling with it, I think there are some real truths there. My very first thought it was 2 Nephi 2, this idea of acting versus being acted upon.
Yeah.
I think there's some elements of control there. This idea of agency, of I can choose certain things. I can choose how I react to situations. I might not be able to control the situation, but I can choose my reaction. I can choose where I go from there. I can choose. And I think that is a key element to our happiness. I think there's a lot of people who've given up that element of control out of their life where it has hurt them.
Agreed.
And so I think from there, that's that. At the same time, I think desperately seeking to always be in control is a very dangerous place to be as well, because I can control my reaction to something. But if I start to think like I can control my environment, I can't control my environment.
It sets us up for frustration, stress, disappointment.
Yeah.
Right? Trying to control things that are not mine to control can get dangerous.
Exactly.
And yet owning the things that I am to control is also super important, though.
Super important. So I need to own the things that I can control. And maybe I could put it, but owning the things that God has asked me to control is where I can find some peace and happiness. But the minute I step outside of the realm of where God's asked me to be in charge of these things is bad news, really bad news.
Okay, I want to come back to that.
Okay.
First, can we go to Pearl of Great Price?
Yep.
Moses 4. So I start thinking about, okay, is this a gospel principle? Control. The more control I have, the more happiness I'm going to have, right? The world seems to teach me that. Control your schedule, control your goals, control your destiny, right? And then I'm reading Moses 4, the first 4 verses. So we know there's a little glimpse into premortal life, the premortal council. We see Lucifer, we see Jehovah. And again, just think about how this starts. Okay, verse 1. And the Lord God spake unto Moses, saying that Satan whom thou hast commanded in the name of mine only begotten, is the same which was from the beginning. And he came before me in this premortal council, saying, Behold, here am I, send me. I will be thy son, and I will redeem all mankind, that one soul shall not be lost. Now, what Lucifer seems to want on the surface doesn't seem like a bad thing, does it?
No.
The redemption of mankind?
No.
Would we be safe in saying that Jesus wanted the same thing?
Absolutely. That is his goal. My work and my glory
is to bring to pass the redemption of all mankind, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the what is not the problem. And again, keep that in mind as we have this conversation, because like what we want is usually good. It's the how and the why that get messed up. Okay. So it goes on. And he says, surely I will do it, wherefore give me thine honor. So we start to get into some of the why he wants to redeem the mankind. Verse 2, then we just jump over to Jesus. But behold, my beloved Son, which was my beloved and chosen from the beginning, said unto me, Father, thy will be done, and the glory be thine forever. Wherefore, because Satan rebelled against me and sought to destroy the agency of man, which I, the Lord, had given unto him, I cast him out. And we get the rest of it there. What they want, redemption. Seems similar on the both. Redemption of mankind. How? Think about the how. And again, my summary as I read that, I think Satan wanted to control people.
And that's the question of how did he want to control people? That's
yes, and how. There's lots of different. We don't get into the details, but to destroy the agency of man in some way, he wanted control. That to me is a big red flag if people are going to then throw out control as a key to my happiness, right? If I sit there and think that this is the essence of what Satan wanted, this is the essence of who he is he wanted control. He wanted to control things that were not his to control.
Oh, okay. So now can I push back?
Yeah.
So the question then is, but then the question is, okay, well, then we're talking my self-control. Is that not fighting against Satan in that idea of like, okay, he wants to control me, and I'm taking charge.
Okay, so here's 2 lists, a little mental exercise here. Okay, I want you to make 2 lists in your mind, and I want you to think about what you would put on the list of what does God want me to control? What has God given me to control?
Okay.
And then list number 2, what are the things I try to control, but I probably shouldn't be trying to that are not mine to control? Okay, so start with list 1. We've already kind of started there, but if you were to list number 1, what is God given you and me to control?
My choices, whether or not I'm going to be obedient to commandments, my reactions to the situations in which I live and experience. He's given me those things to control.
Okay.
I do much good of your own free will and choice type thing.
Okay, can we summarize that in 2 things? Your actions and your reactions.
Yeah, fair enough.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Again, huge that you and I understand, because again, sometimes we give up control in both those areas.
Absolutely.
Both my agency and my agency to react appropriately to things.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of happiness to be found in controlling the 2 things that are maybe mine.
Yeah.
Okay, there was 2.
Yeah.
Again, there's a bunch of things, subcategories, but those 2 things pretty much summarize it. Okay, jump over to the other list for a second. What do you try to control that maybe you and I shouldn't sometimes?
Well, the number one thing we try to control is everybody else's actions and reactions.
That's big. Okay. Keep going.
We try to control consequences to our actions and reactions.
Keep going.
And with that, we try to control circumstances. We try to control situations in which we are. We just can try to control the entire world. But
now think about, like, I try to control people. I try to control outcomes. I try sometimes to control God and his work and his plan. I try to control timing. I try to control slowing down aging, right? I try to control my kids. and the more I started to kind of think through these two lists to be like, okay, I need to own and be responsible for and be in control of what God's given me, my agency to act and to react. But how much frustration am I creating in my own life? Not happiness, frustration, by trying to control what's not mine to control.
Yep.
And I think that's what as I see that in Satan, it was not his to control. Yeah. And you see Jesus from the very outset saying, I will submit.
Yeah, thy will be
defer.
Done.
Thy will be from the very beginning. We see that in the garden later on, but that was his MO from the start. And so I just started to I don't know. I don't think we question this one enough. I don't think we question the idea of control being kind of dangerous when it slips into all these areas of things that I'm not supposed to control. And I just wonder how much more happiness, how much more freedom could we find if I could let go of control. But here's the thing, letting go of control can be scary.
Oh, it's terrifying.
If I don't trust God. This one hurts a little bit, but I'm going to say it out loud. It's going to hurt as I even say that. When I fail to let go of control over things that I probably shouldn't try to control, it's just a sign to me that I don't trust God enough.
Okay.
And so can we walk through a couple scripture examples?
Absolutely.
And then I want to hear your thoughts and other ones that come to mind. But one of the first one that comes to mind is 1 Nephi 3.
Okay.
I think the way the Book of Mormon starts off is like super interesting with a little lesson on control. We know Lehi shares with his sons, you need to go back and get the plates. After they've already traveled probably multiple days, and now that they've traveled, it's like, oh, now turn around, go back and get back. Right? That whole situation is just, this is hard. And yet Nephi is faithful. I will go and do the things which the Lord has commanded. We get that, and now it's time to get the plates, right? And so attempt number one, we get, well, even just the wording of this. Which verses is attempt one? Verses 10 and 11. Okay, 1 Nephi 3, 10, 11. It came to pass that when we had gone up to the land of Jerusalem, I and my brethren did consult one with another. It's interesting about how, okay, God gave the commandment to go get the plates, but it's interesting how they're going to go figure this out, at least initially. They counsel with each other, let's draw straws, let's cast lots, right? And it lands on Laman, and Laman goes, and that doesn't turn out very well. He almost gets killed. Okay. Then we get attempt number 2, right? You scroll down a couple more, and you get to verse 16. Okay, so Nephi's not going to give up. The other brothers want to give up. Nephi's like, heck no, as the Lord liveth, we are not going to go back until we get these plates. And then he has what I think is a really good idea in verse 16. Therefore, let us go to the land of our father's inheritance, for behold, he left gold and silver and all manner of riches. We're not using it. We had to leave it behind. Laban is obviously in love with money. Let's just bribe him. Let's just give him the money. Let's just buy the plates from him, right? Doesn't that seem like a good idea?
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it works horribly, right? So they take with this really good idea of theirs, and Laban not only takes the money, but tries to have all of them killed at this point and chases them out of the city walls. And then we get attempt number 3. But before we even get there, so by the end of chapter 3, right, they're beating up Nephi for his great ideas that they were part of.
Yep.
And an angel has to stop them. And it's really interesting. By the end of verse 29 in 1 Nephi 3, the angel makes a promise. Behold, ye shall go up to Jerusalem again, and the Lord will deliver Laban into your hands. The Lord will deliver him. And they have one question in verse 31, and it's the right question. How?
Yeah.
Right? That's what we want to know, because we want control.
Yeah.
If I know how, I can control. I can plan for it. Right? And the Lord doesn't tell him. The angel doesn't tell him. And so we get this passage that I've loved for a long time, but I've never seen it. I've never looked at it through this lens of control and letting go of control until just recently. And now I love these verses even more. 1 Nephi chapter 4, Nephi says this in verse 6, and I was led by the Spirit, not knowing beforehand the things which I should do. Nevertheless, I went forth. So first time they counsel with each other, cast lots. Second time, he's got this really good idea. Let's go use the money. Both of those fail miserably. And it's this third time that it's like he almost says, okay, I'm letting go of doing it my way.
Yeah.
I am just going, I feel like the Spirit, he made me a promise that the Lord's going to deliver him. I have no idea how. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I'm just going to go forth and just let go of control and trust God. And then God delivers Laban in a way that they never could have crafted on their own.
Yep.
right? And I'm just thinking back in my own life. Okay, Ryan, how often do I try to control with my rational brain? And I know God wants me to use my brain. I know He wants me to use counsels. But maybe I'm missing some of the greatest miracles because I'm not letting go of control and saying, nevertheless, I was led by the Spirit, not knowing beforehand the things which I should do.
All right, I like what you're saying. I really do. Can I push back a little bit? Though? Okay, so I'm going to push back because I think I like what you're saying because we do need to let go of control. We need to let God take over. But as we look at this, the way God delivers Laban in Nephi's hand, God could not have done if they hadn't done what they did in 1 Nephi chapter 3. Because Laban had to do those things to make himself worthy of death under the law of Moses. So,
yeah.
So it is that interesting phrase of this idea of letting go of control, because it does ultimately have to come down to this. Okay, I'm going to fully trust God, and then maybe part of this. So if I can, the pushback is not necessarily like no control. Maybe the part of the pushback was that part of letting go of control was the realization of, okay, I've been doing things, and God said, Nephi went up in full faith, God will deliver us. God will, prepare a way for us to keep the commandments. 1 Nephi 3:7, and they get there, and the way was not the way they thought. Because letting go of control not only meant letting go and walking in there, trusting Him, but also being like, okay, we did it the Lord's way, which is with counsels, which is with going forward, and doing these things, using our own brains. It's not meet that I should command in all things, but you should bring to pass much good, and that they did it the right way, and that the right way wasn't the way that they wanted it to be. And so I think it goes both ways.
Yes.
Idea. And so it's that idea.
It starts with them owning their agency,
Yes.
doing what they can in their power, but then recognizing that ultimately that wasn't enough.
Exactly. And I think part of that is that idea of the difference between Nephi and Laman and Lemuel is this idea of that Laman and Lemuel couldn't get past the idea of like what we did didn't work, and now we're crabby about it, so we're going to beat up Nephi. To Nephi saying, okay, I'm still going to have control over what I have control over, which is my reaction. And my reaction is I will still trust God.
Yes.
And that's that. I think there's some real power there. This idea of from what I'm hearing from you is letting go of control does not mean sitting there and waiting at every single intersection, waiting for the Lord to tell me which way to turn.
No.
It's saying, okay, I'm going to just keep moving forward. And then when my plan doesn't work, that I will keep moving forward and not knowing beforehand what I should do and still trust the promises the Lord has given me. Is that
that sounds pretty good.
Okay.
That sounds great. Yeah. And again, not only hopefully it's not letting go of breaking our mics.
That was only I shall never cross my legs again. Sorry.
I hope we don't just let go. I hope I don't just let go of control once I've exhausted all my own rationale and best efforts. Right. I hope I go into it somehow with this combined. I'm going to be active. I'm going to be anxiously engaged and do many things of my own free will and choice. But through the entire experience and being open, saying, but God, anytime you want to rewrite this story, anytime you want to add chapters that I'm not aware of,
anytime you want to actually be the author and finisher of my faith, that would be great.
Then the pen is yours.
Okay.
Right? I will keep writing as best I can, trusting that there's probably times when your hand is overlapping mine, but if ever you want to take over my hand, if ever you want me to drop the pen and give it to you, and that's, again, I just... New Year. We're going to New Year, and we're going to have New Year's goals and New Year's resolutions, and just some of us are going to have hopefully some internal searching of God, where do I want to go in 2025? And I think it's super healthy to have some really good, productive destinations out there. But I think I could be more flexible and creative on the route it might take to get there. And if I'm not flexible and creative, if I'm pretty rigid on, nope, there's my goal, and I know how I'm going to get there, and I can do it, it's all within my control, I think we're going to run into frustrations that don't need to be frustrations. Maybe those are actually just parts of a bigger, better plan happening that I might be missing because I'm too rigid with my goals, my plans, my way.
Exactly. Which goes back to your example. Am I Laman or am I Nephi? Am I okay, here's my plan. Oh, this didn't work. Okay, what's phase 2? Instead being okay, I'm, here we go.
Was this
Let's keep
a
going.
failure, or was this part of a bigger plan of something else that God is working in my life? right? Which is such a cool way. Again, like think about that one story interposed on our own lives. Like how many times are we thinking that we're failing because it's not going according to our plans, because I'm trying to control my life to be easy and successful and pretty and the way that I think it should be. And then when it doesn't turn out that way, I can either view that as I'm failing or God's not blessing me or whatever.
Exactly.
Or I could take a step back and say, no, something bigger is probably happening here.
Yeah.
And if I'll just trust God and let go of some control, maybe he can show me what that bigger, more beautiful is.
Yeah, absolutely. Which once again, I know we're repeating ourselves, and I'm repeating, but once again, that does not mean stand still. It means you continue forward.
Yeah.
You move forward. Nephi never would have found Laban if he'd been standing on the wall and waited for God to take over and do exactly what God wanted to do.
Move your feet, but trust that the Lord might be doing things that you just let go of the grip a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess is the control that I be in control of what I am, my actions. Move towards a destination.
Yeah.
Right. Don't be lazy. This conversation is not about designating control over your life all over to God. Right?
Yeah.
Just do it, God. Just make my life wonderful.
Yeah.
Like I deed it all over to you.
It's as stupid as this may sound. It's the idea of we either want Jesus to take the wheel and us to be the worst backseat driver ever, or to become a passenger princess, and both of those are wrong.
Yeah.
Is that we are an active and engaged part of this, even as he is in control. And maybe perhaps Jesus taking the wheel is you're still driving and he's the one who's navigating.
Yes. 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 I like that. Okay. Can I give you another example that I've loved the chapter for a long time, but looking through the lens of control, it just caught me differently. 3 Nephi 17. The best chapter in the Book of Mormon, if you ask Brother Wilkinson. Not that many people do ask me, but if you did ask me,
Brother
that
Wilkins,
would be my
what's
answer.
the best chapter in the Book of
3
Mormon?
Nephi 17.
Thank you so much for that idea.
Thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
No one ever asked me. Okay. It's so good. He shows up in chapter 11. They have the amazing experience of feeling the nail marks in his hands. He's taught them the sermon at the temple. Their minds and hearts and souls and emotions are blown. They are spent in so many good ways. And he knows that. So he tells them, go home, pray about and think about, ponder what I've taught you today. Come back tomorrow. I'll be back. And not only is he going to leave because they're spent, he has things to do.
He does.
He is a resurrected being at this point, and he says in 3 Nephi 17, verse 3, therefore go ye unto your homes and ponder, verse 4, but now I go unto the Father, and also to show myself to the lost tribes of Israel, for they are not lost unto the Father. Like he has super important things to do. And again, I don't know, I'm going to ask one day when I get to ask questions like this. I don't know how this works, but by the time you get to verse 5, the people want him to stay more than anything, but they don't say it. But Jesus, being Jesus, senses it. And he turns and he says, bring all your sick and afflicted, and I will heal them. And not only does he do that, then he kneels and he prays with them. And not only does he do that, then he kneels and prays with their children. And then encircled with flames of fire. And then angels come to minister. And then he partakes of the sacrament with them. And then he teaches them about the sacrament. And it just goes on. And it doesn't seem like those things were going to happen on this day.
Yeah.
And I'm just watching a resurrected Savior here in that moment. And I just thought, look at him let go of control. He had a schedule. It was important. It was a godly, divine schedule that he needed to. And yet when he sensed where their hearts were at, he made the choice, I need to be here longer. I need to stay with them and do some things. And to me, it seems very unplanned. Yeah. That's the part that I don't know how a divine resurrected being could be surprised. But I think he was surprised. I don't think he was faking it. Like, like if you've ever been to a concert and they play their last song,
which is not their most famous song.
Yes, so they haven't played the most famous, and they all leave. Yeah, concert's over, and then encore, and they run back. Like, okay, I guess I'll stay. Like, I don't think Jesus was like playing this out. Like, I'm leaving unless you want me to stay. Like I think he really was going to leave. But then he changed his mind because something happened in the moment. And again, to me, I just wonder, do I like surprises that come in my day, or do I resent them? Do I think they're getting in the way of my plans?
Like, do you ever have that happen? Like a student will show up in your office, or one of your kids needs you for something. And again, we're just like, you're ruining my plans. Like, this is not the plan. I had this really great day planned out. Or, even bigger than that. I think of our students, something doesn't work out in their dating life or in their schooling or in their career opportunities. And they're just like, oh my gosh, this is messing up the plan. And I just watched Jesus embrace this to say, no, maybe this is the plan right here. Like, maybe I'm just going to lean into this surprise. And I think the surprise ends up being so much better than if he would have stayed on schedule with what he had planned. Which is just cool, isn't it?
No, it really is.
And so I'm just wrestling with this idea of control being this like absolutely essential thing I need for happiness. It's like, yeah, I do need to control my actions and my reactions.
Yeah.
But what if I let go of control over a whole bunch of other things? What if I embrace surprises more in my life?
Okay. And I like that. I like that a lot. I like that simple phrase of embrace surprises. And because there are things that we cannot control. We can't control who shows up wherever we are. We can't control things that sometimes come up in the middle of the day. You have kids, there will be surprises left and right. Life is just that way, no matter what. But when we let that not be the controlling factor, where we let our reactions to those things be what we control, then it's a very different idea.
Yeah.
So
I'd love for either of you to be thinking about like a time when you let go of control and you actually saw a beautiful plan develop that you never could have crafted on your own. Because I'll give you one, just as you're thinking about it, like this job. This was not the plan. I was not going to teach seminary. Nothing against it, but I was when I went into the mission field. I think I had thoughts like being a physical therapist or sports medicine, something about that. I'd spent a lot of time in the trainer's room playing football and baseball and basketball, and so I thought, I want to do something like where I'll stay around sports medicine, make a pretty good amount of money. Those are the things that were on my mind. Came home from my mission and had kind of a change of heart on my mission where I thought, I want to work with young people, and so I wanted to coach. I had some influential coaches that made a big difference on me. So that was the plan. I returned missionary. I'm married. I'm at SUU. I'm majoring in German and history. I have a coaching emphasis. I'm loving it. I'm getting to coach baseball at Canview High School for the sophomore team. Like, I'm in. I'm in control. I am in control of my life, and it's going all according to plan. And one night I'm saying a prayer and I'm thanking Heavenly Father for the Institute class that Minnie and I had earlier that day. And I kid you not, like out of nowhere, I have this thought, as long as you're going to teach, why don't you teach the best stuff? Instant tears. And my first reaction was, no. No, like I'm not one of them and I don't want to be one of them. And so I just wrestled with it. And the next day, I let go of some control, and I asked my institute teacher, how do you even become one of you guys? And he kind of told me the plan. So I go jump into this class. We're doing introductions, and I kid you not, like I'm in this class, and like every one of these guys wanted to be a seminary teacher since they were 7.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I am in the one of these things is not like the other, and I'm like, I am in the wrong spot, but maybe it'll help me be a better elders corner teacher someday. But the more I just kind of tried to let go of control to say, okay, you put this on my radar for a reason. I'm still doing the coaching. I'm still doing the German classes. That's my degree. I fell in love with it. They let me go into a classroom for a couple of weeks, and I just thought, oh no, like now if they say no, it's going to break my heart. And now here I am 22 years, I don't know how long, 22 years later. I can't tell you how much I love what I do. Like I love it. And like, if I would have kept trying to control my plan and going the way that I wanted, like it scares me to death what I would have missed if I wouldn't have let go of some control there.
Yeah.
So there's just one, but it's a big one in my life. You had one come to your mind like right away when I asked you.
I had a couple, but I mean, not to piggyback on your. Obviously, this was not my plan either.
This was not your plan.
No, it was not. So I was there at the county attorney's office and perfectly happy there and feeling decently successful, and I enjoyed my job as a prosecutor. But I was just one night, I was just sitting in my chair, I couldn't sleep, and just thought, okay, where should I be in 5 years? And the question really was, should I stay with government employment or should I go back to private practice? And it was out of the blue, literally lightning bolt. It said, you need to quit your job and teach seminary. I'd never had a desire to teach seminary, ever. I had a desire to teach history at some point in time, but I never had a desire to teach seminary. And it was just out of the blue. And so I immediately I'm like, okay, well, here we go. And the next day I called a friend in my ward who was a retired seminary teacher and had a conversation with him about it and how to do it. And before I knew it, I was signed up for the class and doing it at night. And all while I'm being bishop and doing all this, it was the worst, by the way. It was so dumb. It was really
letting go of control stinks.
It really does.
It's hard.
And I stand by this statement. To this day, I can dare say it was the worst financial decision I've ever made in my entire life, hands down, without a doubt. On paper, it is ridiculous and it's stupid, and it was a bad decision. It was a really bad decision. Sorry.
Don't be discouraged if you're thinking about this as a career someday. It's really fun.
But it's wonderful, and I'm grateful I did it, and I'm so grateful I made the choice to come over and do this, and I love it. And it is the right choice. There's no doubt that this is where the Lord wants me. And to be fair, over the years, there's been times where I'm like, should I leave? And every single time the Lord's like, no, you should not. So and I'm like, okay, never mind. So,
I would agree with you.
So there's that. And that, in a nutshell, I'm going to tell a stupider story, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Where I was forced to let go of control against my will. And so I'm finishing up law school. I was finishing up law school and applying to take the bar and applying to be a member of the bar. And as I'm doing this, I find myself just slightly behind. I'm in law school in Indiana, and I'm applying to be a member of the bar in Utah, and the rules in Indiana were different than in Utah. And so I, was around a bunch of kids going to Indiana, of course, made a massive mistake. And in Indiana, you just have to send your fingerprints in to the bar association. In Utah, you have to have your fingerprints sent in as affirmed by the FBI. Which is great, except for I'm sort of running low on time because I tend to do things at deadlines, and
I can witness that. Yeah.
and as we do this, I'm like, well, crap. And so I immediately check with the FBI. Is there some way? And the very first thing on an FBI fingerprint thing is like, allow 13 weeks. I'm like, well, I'm screwed. And there is nothing here, and Sue will divorce me, and this is bad. And then I'm like, there has to be some expedited form. And next big letters on the website, there is no way to expedite this. So I'm like, well, Google, help me out. And they're like, sometimes if you write it on the outside of the envelope, you might get a nice FBI official that will help you. So I did, I write a huge letter, and it's all like, I'm really a good person. I'm not a criminal. I just need this. My life will be ruined if you don't do it, whole thing all over the outside of the envelope too. Do it, run to the thing, put my fingerprints in there, do that. Driving home from the post office after doing the, next day mail type thing. And there on the passenger seat next to me is the money order. I forgot to put the check in the mail. So, and I'm like, well, my life is over. And I remember I pulled over on the side of the road just crying because I'm like, I ruined it. And it was stupid, and it's stupid ruining it. It's all my fault because I can't even blame anybody else. It's all my fault. And I pray, and the Lord's like, just chill. It's going to be fine. I'm like, no, it's not going to be fine. I ruined it. He's like, no, it's fine. It's fine. And I get home and I pray some more. And every single time it's like, stop. And it's literally stop praying. Like, it's okay. Like, it's fine. The next day, noon, I'm eating lunch at home, and the phone rings, and I answer the phone, and they're like, is John there? I'm like, this is he. And I'm like, this is Agent so-and-so from the FBI. I'm like, hello. He's like, these fingerprints seem really important, huh? I'm like, yeah, they are. He's like, you should have put a check in there. And I'm like, I know. He's like, give me your credit card, and I will run your prints. And I'm like, okay, thank you so much. And then as we're finishing, he's like, you're really lucky you forgot the check, because that's what brought this to the top of my pile. Now, so number one, the Lord used my own stupidity for my benefit, which I'm super grateful for.
That is a gospel principle.
That's a gospel principle
that we don't talk about very often because it'd be dangerous, but it is true
it's
sometimes.
Very true. But the second one was that simple, and I know there was really nothing left for me to let go of, but it was interesting. The thing that God needed me to let go of was He needed me to let go of the worry.
Yes.
Stop trying to control the worry. Like, yes, you messed up. Trust me. Trust me. And once again, I look back at it's all silliness 20 years in the past, but how many times do I need to do the same time? Like, how many times do I go to the Lord? Like, no, I messed up. Okay, we've got this. No, you don't, you're not listening. I messed up. I know we've got, no, you're not listening. and that idea of like, I have to control it. I have to control it. You have to tell me how to fix it. And so many times in the gospel of Jesus Christ, the answer is you aren't fixing it. I am.
And sometimes in our trying to fix it, we're making it worse.
Yes.
Because we try to fix it with worry and again, our own best rational solutions. And sometimes my best rational solution is not going to fix it.
Yep.
I can't make my kids be exactly how I want them to be. I can't make other people's agency be what I want them to be. No. I can't make politics and pandemics and a million things that are out of, I can't make it be, and trying to and worrying about it and stressing about it does not bring happiness. Yeah. That kind of control does not make me happy. No. Richard Eyre, he's a New York Times bestseller author. He's also a member of the church. He wrote a book called The Happiness Paradox, and he talks a little bit about control. And he said this: think about the folly of trying to control everything. Life is essentially unpredictable. It happens. Little of it is within our control. The measure of our success and happiness lies not in manipulating what happens, but in how we handle and respond to what happens. Constantly trying to control what can't be controlled is a recipe for irritation and stress. Yeah. Picture yourself at the end of the day when things didn't happen just the way you had planned them pretty much every day. Yeah. And ask yourself if you enjoyed the surprises or resented them, because that response is really the only thing you can control. And then he goes on, just one more. He says this: the good notion of setting goals and making plans and controlling oneself gets expanded into the false idea that we should be able to control and manage everything and everyone around us. Yet in reality, we have control of a tiny island of things around, which swirls in a huge sea of uncontrollability and unpredictability. And then this great one-liner: our challenge is not to control the ocean, but to see its beauty and appreciate and learn how best to ride on its waves and currents. Yep. I just think if I could do the work, here's the phrase that goes through my mind when I think about what I should control and what I should not control: to detach work from outcomes. The work is mine. Yep. The work in my family, the work here that we do together, my work as a neighbor, my work as a disciple, as a priesthood holder, do the work like with a smile and with like the best of my abilities, and do the work and enjoy the work for the work's sake. But I have to decouple it from the outcome. Yeah. The outcome is not my business. That's God's. Yeah. That's God's. And if I'll just leave that to Him and just enjoy the work for the sake of the work, I can have success and happiness every day. It's when I attach my happiness to controlling the way that my work translates into the outcome that I want, that's when I get frustrated and disappointed and messed up.
And I can't help but thinking, as you said, that's definitely coming from a missionary who served in Germany.
Does it show?
It shows so much.
Yes, that is.
Because you probably didn't get the lectures of if you would work better, you'd have more baptisms.
No.
And to be fair, I'm bless my mission president. That was not what he taught either. But that idea that how many times do we do that? Like, oh man, if you would just change this, this, and this, these are how many baptisms you will have. These are how many. If you would just do this, this, and this, all of your children will end up in the faith and be perfectly wonderful human beings. And yes, there are things, there are optimal choices that we can make, and then the outcomes are still beyond our control.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to pause you here because we're running out of time, but I want to do this because where I want to go next with this, I think, is going to take us a lot longer than one episode. Okay. So let go of control to a point. There has to be something that we do besides just let go, because letting go feels too weak and too Elsa for me right here. I like that. And so what we were looking at, and I know you used the word submission when you texted me about this, but I want to talk about that idea. So is it all right if we'll come
do a
back?
Part two. We'll do a part two on what is submission. What is it? What is it not?
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Because let it go. Yeah. That can be very, that can be very Elsa, but there's more to it than that. Well, what does that doctrinally mean? What does it not mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll do a part two with that.
Awesome.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about control?
No, I'm going to start figuring out a little bit more. This was really good. This was really good.
I love the pushback on this because I'm still trying to figure it out. But from personal experience, I just know that I have to get really clear on what is mine to control and what is not mine. And the more I actually make those two lists, I'm fascinated how big the list is of things I try to control but are not mine too. If I can just get more focused on what is within my control and then have a lot more faith with the other things on the list and trust that God is doing his work in ways that then I think that is the absolute gospel recipe for true happiness.
I love it.
So
thank you for this.
to be continued. Thank you for wrestling with me.
To be continued. Join us next time as we figure out the second part of control and how do we actually submit.
There you go. See ya.
Bye.